Hey guys, Sean Zine, the host for Network Marketing Insider, where I bring on network marketers, affiliate marketers, multi-level marketers, and I've been bringing on token creators on the Algorand blockchain. So keep that in mind. I want you, those that are watching, if you're live, drop a hashtag live. If you're on the replay, hashtag replay. If you're watching from YouTube, if you're on any of the audio only verticals, I want you to put a review at the end. Please do a review for us. And I want to remind each and every one of you, don't just listen to what we're talking about, implement, take action. I want to help more people out there and get over the myth that you can't be successful in network marketing or any online business for that matter. Before we even get started, I want to remind you, go into the description on anywhere, the YouTube channel, the video, the audio on Spotify, Apple, what have you, and engage and connect and follow my guests. So I'll remind you later on, but that's one important thing is have a connection call and see if what they're doing will fit your lifestyle. As always, let me bring on my next guest. We have Chris. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Sean. Glad to be here.
Likewise, man. I always appreciate opportunities to collaborate with other human beings on this amazing world that we're in. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day. And as always, I'm always asking, who are you? And then also, why did you get into network marketing or online business building?
Okay, well, that should be interesting. In fact, this will likely be one of the most interesting broadcasts on your MLM Insider because, well, let's just put it this way. I'm fascinated with myself, and I think that's a good place to start because all of us in life, especially those of us in business, in my opinion, need to become fascinated with ourselves. I learned this once from a guy named Jeff Olson, one of the top distributors in the industry, and you've probably heard of him, Sean. And
Yep.
he said, be fascinated with yourself and continually reinvent yourself. So to start answering your question, I and my upbringing was very rocky. Let's just put it that way. And my experiences were very strange, very scary, and caused me some trouble earlier in life. I used to be a scoundrel 40 years ago, and I had to look at myself at some point and say, is this the direction that I want to continue to go down? Now, I guess I'll back up even a little bit more. 1976, I'm 15 years old, and I'm up at the strip mall up the road from my house, and there's a sidewalk book sale. And I'm looking at the books, and I'm really into science fiction and fantasy and hoping to score a good find. And all of a sudden, this book catches my eye, and I pick it up and look at it. And I wished I'd have grabbed it off the shelf here. It's the first book in my rather large library. And doesn't matter if I can't hold it up right here, right? But, I saw this book, and I opened it up. It was by a author who no longer with us, unfortunately, but one of the first self-development authors that I saw, in fact, the first, Wayne Dyer. And his book was, I believe this was his first book, his first best-selling book. It was called Your Erroneous Zones. And I'm looking at it going, I swear to God, these are the first things that I think about looking at this book and this title. I'm going, I think there's some things about myself that need fixing. I think I'll buy this book. So I did, and I took it home. And it proved to be like another 17 years or so before I found an outlet or a a reason, an extended reason, I guess is the best way to put it, as to why I would do this, because at some point I realized, my problems aren't they can't, they felt like they were like the universe raining crap upon my head, so to speak. But I realized that there was probably something that I could do about it if I put my mind to it and looked for what those things might be. And that's why this book caught my attention. So in 1992, I'm working. I had some sales jobs when I was a young man, and most of them were very bad experiences from the standpoint that that they teach you how to not to behave, to be, I mean, I'm a pretty nice, I'm a friendly guy, I'm pretty easy to get along with until I'm backed in a corner. Right. And so I had some sales jobs that gave me some very bad experiences. Let's just put it that way. And then they're pushing and they're prodding, and they've got to get their money's worth of a better investment to hire me, right? So I'm selling this cleaning product in Sam's Club. It's a carpet cleaner, and the only reason I got this job was because I showed such enthusiasm on the interview that the woman, my manager, her name was Tess, she hired me on the spot. She was like floored by my energy. So I'm going, okay, super. I had me a job, and I've had a lot of jobs in my life, trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with myself. So I got hired for this job, and I'm standing up behind this platform, and I'm putting all this dirt and crud down on the carpet. And then I take this little brush and I squirt the cleaning product on it. I take this brush and I take all the stuff out of the carpet, right? And then voila, the carpet looks good. And then, you like that, Mr. Prospect? The product's right over here on the shelf. And I usually would sell between 25 and 40 of those bottles per day, and did that for a pretty good while. Well, one day this dude walked up to me, and I could see him coming from my left, and he was a big dude. He had arms like the size of a tree trunk, and I didn't know if he looked like a bouncer. I didn't know if he was security or if I'd done something wrong. I wasn't sure what the gig was. So he's walking up to me, and he goes, "Show me what you got." And I said, "Okay." So, spray, scrub. At the end of my little, it only takes about a minute and a half to do this little demo. And he looks at me after I'm finished. He goes, "Dude, if you can do that, you can do anything." And I'm like puffed up, going, "Hey man, thanks. I appreciate the compliment." Felt good instantly, right? So this guy, who's still a good friend of mine today, after all these years, became my introduction to network marketing. He was prospecting, and that, let me pause just a second to illustrate the concept here. He approached me. He wasn't, timid about it. He wasn't, reluctant. He walked right up to me. He saw that I was doing something that possibly aligned with what he was doing. He wanted to see if I had any skill. Then he gave me a compliment. What a wonderful way to start a relationship. And like I said, 33 years later, I'm still friends with this guy, and we communicate regularly. So I joined his company, and actually something about it just wasn't quite sitting right with me. So I actually got right out of that company and joined the biggest network marketing company on the planet. Can I say any company names here?
Of course.
It's the big A, the big Amway. And I took all my sales training that I've gotten at all these jobs. I mean, I've sold everything from vacuum cleaners to Cutco knives to even later on, about 20 years ago, I was sold real estate for a while. And, so I'm putting all my so-called skills to work and failing miserably. I'm going, what is going on here? I mean, I've always felt like I had the gift of gab, and I'm actually an introvert, but I can flip the switch when the occasion calls for it, and connect with people, right? And I realized that's what the name of the game was. So to make a long story just a little shorter, I learned a lot of things at Amway, and this wasn't Amway's fault. Amway's one of the greatest companies ever, and I'll go to my grave saying that. But I learned a lot also about the wrong way to go about building a network marketing business. And it took me years to realize that education was priceless. I mean, absolutely priceless. So, for instance, here's a great example. Do not pursue the same 8 people for your opportunity presentations over and over again for 2 years. I did that. I went to the people I knew, which another thing, they all say, go to your warm market, right? Which is, the people the people who like and trust you, so on and so forth. I remember I blew out a relationship with a high school friend because I approached him, I don't know, 10 times within a week, something like that. And I heard from stage that that's what you do. I heard from stage that that's how that guy who's got the big ring on his finger and the big yacht and the big mansion, he said, I got my biggest leader because I just refused to take a no. Okay, so I tried that and blew out a high school friendship. Guy never spoke to me since, 33 years ago. So, but I learned a lot of cool stuff. First of all, I learned what was possible. The late, great Mark Yarnell, God rest his soul, he's been gone about 9 years now, I think. He gave the best definition of leadership that I have ever heard in my life. I mean, there's a lot of definitions, and they're all, they're all good ones, all the ones I've heard, but this is the best. Leaders demonstrate what is possible. And I learned what was possible. It's like, wait a minute, all these people look happy. All these people look like they're achieving their goals. All these people seem to be making money. They certainly are dressed like they are. I'm in a room with 10,000 people at an Amway rally, looking around having the best time of my life. This is great. Now, let me back up just another second. So here's really why I'm in network marketing, to circle back to your specific question. I realized that when I saw the vehicle, because that's all this is, it's a vehicle to take you from where you are to where you want to go. In fact, it's the best vehicle I've ever seen in my entire lifetime for that purpose. So, I just lost my train of thought. Let's see. So the vehicle, where was I going with that, Sean?
I think you're going down. I mean, what you've been sharing so far, those that are watching, important things. I like when you started as far as being fascinated with yourself. It's the key thing. I love the self-development piece. You have to have that self-development. I love that the leadership demonstrates what is possible. Yeah, a lot of people out there, it's fake. They rented a car. They rented a house. They rented a yacht, took video, pictures, and all that. And it's a facade. I know the ability to now become either debt-free, which should be a main thing, and then you can get paid whatever you want to get paid, right? You're also going to have builders and those that are going to get it. And Chris was talking about losing a high school friend because he was, connecting 10 times. Sometimes you live and learn, because not everyone's going to, when they say no, follow up with them again in the future, but not in the same week, etc. Back to you, Chris.
Exactly. And do it in a way that I learned later, and I'll come back to that. But yes, the reason I realized that I got into network marketing Yeah, I wanted to make a lot of money. Who doesn't? But it really was a deeper reason than that. It was, I saw that I could become the person that I was meant to be. I viewed it as a spiritual journey of sorts. And to this day, I'm not rich. Okay. I don't have 6 zeros behind my paychecks. Um, there's a lot of ways to measure success besides huge incomes. Now,
Yes.
I've had my share of successes and failures, and as I pointed out a moment ago, the failures and things that I learned, the things that didn't work, the things that people were showing me about, that I realized I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that. I've learned the hard way. That's not, when you bash your head against the wall for so long, doing anything, you realize if you're sharp, that is, if you're one of the sharper tools in the shed, you'll realize maybe I should change tactics. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Well,
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way multiple times. I like to consider myself fairly bright, but I don't know that I'm the sharpest tool in the shed. So I had to, figure this stuff out on the fly. But my purpose for being here is well, first of all, I have my entire life, Sean, I have never felt comfortable in my own skin because of my experiences when I was young. All right. Very, very rocky, very, very just, I can't even go into it, but I knew that
Unhealthy.
there's a good word, unhealthy. It certainly, the experiences that I had did not serve me well in any way, shape, or form to becoming successful doing anything in life. Let's sum it up right that way. So here in this industry, it's like I can be more. And that's what a lot of people, I think, looking at the industry or considering it these days, or even those who've done it for some time and it's not really clicking. They don't realize that this is a process of self-ascension. I wanted to be proud. I wanted to be proud of who I was. I mean, like I said, I was a derelict 40 some years ago. All right. And I wasn't happy with it. And I met my girlfriend, who became my wife in the mid 80s, and got into networking in the early 90s. And those two events right there, God did for me. God doesn't do things to us. He does things for us. And it took me, having such a random, unpredictable perspective of how the universe works, I didn't understand until there was too much evidence in front of me not to understand it, that the universe is actually not primarily random. It's primarily predictable if you kind of go along with the certain laws of the universe and understand there's certain ways to be, certain ways to do, certain laws to follow to have the universe work more for you than against you. And the same wind blows on us all. If you're trying to sail a boat, have you ever wondered how the boat can sail with the wind and then at a moment's notice turn around and sail against the wind? It's because they set their sail differently. And I was taught that mindset is a different set of the sail. The same wind blows upon us all.
I like that.
It's how are we going to set the darn sail? Learn that from Jim Rohn, for example. God rest his soul. So why am I in network marketing? Because I became, I became a man in network marketing. I became somebody who over the years was more and more increasingly happy with who I was, what I was doing. I recognized that I was a wallflower in my younger days, a chameleon. I'd rather blend into the wallpaper than step out into a spotlight and speak to people and actually become vulnerable with them. I was taught to never be vulnerable, to always, always keep your cards close to your chest and always, play a role. And, I'm just looking at the clock and I realize we probably have about 5 minutes left. So let me kind of wrap this up with some of the lessons and a few of the things that have really come about as a result of this journey. And that's what it's been, is my third company in network marketing. I was fortunate to align, which I'm still with this company today. Now I've left and come back a few times, but that's a whole different story we don't have time to get into today. But I learned I learned how to be a nice, honest, respectful, caring person. This guy was my role model for how to be, I wanted to be liked by people. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to like them. I wanted to become a member of the human race. I always felt like I was dropped off here from some other far off galaxy or something. And as I said, my whole life has been a quest to just become comfortable in my own skin. So here I am 33 years later. I've been involved in about 45 different companies. And the one that I'm with today, my network marketing company, as I just mentioned, I've been in and out of a couple of times because there were values conflicts. Do I want to follow the path of just being totally authentic and caring and this and that, or do I want to follow the next shiny, big, flashy thing that promises extra flashy tools and extra, marketing psychology, which I understand very well. Human nature, that's another benefit. Understanding human nature. That all came in this industry. Here's a couple of things, and maybe you have a last question or something, but here's a couple of things in your journey for those who are watching that let me suggest a few things. Number one, don't be in a hurry. Unless you do have 6 silver spoons coming out of your mouth since birth, this is going to be a rough ride for you. Okay, don't be in a hurry. Number two, if you fail, and you will, because life is all about successes and failures, and they go together and they're inseparable. You can't have success without failure, lots of it. Just look up the biographies of all the most successful people in history, right? You have to keep going in spite of that. You have to reframe your perspective about failure. It's a stepping stone to success. There's a good tip. Consistency. We're trained, we're indoctrinated to believe that, well, as an employee, you show up, you do your job each day, you manage to get through a week without losing your job, and you get paid. Therefore, you're thinking, oh, okay, the effort, however big or small, that I made was success because I still have my job and I got paid. Then you get in this industry and you realize that, no, you don't just show up and do a few mundane activities and get paid. You actually have to impact and influence people to change, to help them uncover their own hero's journey within their own minds, because this is a volunteer activity. We're not controlling anybody. We're helping people make a decision to do what they already want to do, if that's who they are. If that's not who they are, we present to them and they say, this isn't my cup of tea. And we say, following the be nice, honest, and respectful doctrine. Hey, I appreciate you taking a moment to take a look at this. Wish you the best. Circle back at some point and see if things have changed for you, if you like. But pleasure meeting you. That sort of thing. So be consistent. Don't be pushy. Don't act like the used car salesman. Selling isn't about making statements and presentations and spewing out facts and figures. Selling is about asking questions. What do you want, sir? What do you want for your life, ma'am? I just might be able to help you get there through the things that I've learned in the vehicle that I have in front of me. I can't promise anything. This is on you, which brings to mind the fourth thing. When you fail, take personal responsibility. It's not the company's fault. Now, granted, there's some bad companies and scams out there. Don't get me wrong. But in general, this is how could I still be standing after all this time and all this angst if I didn't take personal responsibility for the outcome that I was pursuing? Couldn't. Right. And that's been one of the hardest things is I've had to learn that lesson dozens of times over the years. Okay. Take personal responsibility. If that company fails you in some way, or you see it's not a good fit, you pick up you pick yourself up and you go somewhere else. Hence my 45 companies.
Wow.
What values are you going to embrace? What values are you going to share with people? Another thing, and I'll stop here. And don't worry about support or lack of it. I actually love support. I provide support. I want people to know that I am there for them. But if you don't get it, or if you don't get support from your spouse or your friends, Napoleon Hill said that the number one cause of failure, this is straight out of his book, Think and Grow Rich. The number one cause of failure is listening to your friends and family.
Yep.
If your friends and family haven't done what you're trying to do, their opinion is worthless. Now, granted, I'm sure they have your best interest at heart. Let's just assume that they do, right? Let's think positively and the best about everybody. But bottom line is, the only thing that matters is what you got going on up here and what you got going on down here. And rock and roll, whether I make 6 zeros behind my checks before I croak or not, here's the kicker, dude. Here's the kicker. I'm happier every single day. I'm still standing, doing this thing, doing the do, reaching out to people, becoming more outgoing, becoming more loving, becoming more giving. By default, I'm not a generous person. Since being in network marketing, I have pushed myself and pushed myself and pushed myself to be so generous. Okay. Have I rambled long enough, my friend? I hope this is valuable for somebody.
Oh, Chris,
if I was watching this, I'd be going, dude, thank you.
Chris, that was, man, it's so funny. That was probably the longest answer to my one question, which is great. And all of the value that you gained from it, guys. I'm going to have Chris back so that we can get some more details from him. He brought so much value, guys. And I want to remind everyone, he had lots of points that are so true. The support you're not going to sometimes have, but you might find it in another accountability group you might be involved in. You might not have the skills, but you have to be open to learning the skills and actually implementing what you're learning, not just say, oh, I just went to this webinar, I learned something, I'm going to try it. There's so many things we're going to get out of Chris in the near future again, because we're going to have him on again. But I want you all to go to the description, reach out, I want you to follow him on all the socials. I want you to have a connection call with him, see what he's doing, if it fits you. If not, move on. That's how we roll, man. Like, we're not hurting anyone's feelings. And I want to thank Chris for sharing lots of value today. Stick around for another minute. Everyone else, again, we hope you have an amazing rest of your day.